Welcome to Bigmin's YouTube channel and to Bigmin's flagship annual conference. Could you introduce yourself, please, sir?
Thank you, Madhamita, for having us. It was a very nice event, well organized. My name is Sanjiv Bhargava, Bulk Marine Limited, Hong Kong. We are dry bulk shipping operators, and besides that, we also help investors in their acquisition for ships, which we give them a one roof under one-stop solution to them.
So I wanted to ask you, we have seen freight rates soaring this past year. In fact, the Shanghai Container Freight Index, which is a key indicator of shipping rates from major Chinese ports, have surged 31% year on year and 72% since mid-December last year. So what would you attribute this trend to?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Now, what has happened is after COVID, when the container ship freights were all-time high, it started become normal. In fact, the container freights came back to its normal pre-COVID prices. However, because of the geopolitical situation and the Red Sea, ships now have to circumvent Red Sea to go to Europe, and that's what is driving the cost up. So, as you rightly said, the ships are almost containers specifically are performing the best at the moment, for the simple reason from China to Europe, the ships have to do extra streaming because of the ton per mile increase. The ships, there needs to be more availability of the ships to execute that particular route. As such, because of the shortage, the freights have gone up.
So how has this impacted dry bulk cargoes like iron ore and coal in particular?
Surprisingly, Red Sea doesn't really affect too much on the dry bulk side. However, the main reason for dry bulk has been the ton per mile. Yes, the ton per mile, essentially, there were a couple of events. There was a Ukraine war, there was a Red Sea issue, and then there was a Panama Canal draft, which basically added extra 8% ton per mile, which basically essentially improves the ship utilization by 8%. And the cargo has been pretty okay, actually. So the market was evenly poised, barring geopolitical situation. So I must say owners have been very lucky that has favored them. The increased ton per mile has favored them. So I have a feeling that should come back to normal once the Red Sea issue comes back into control, and Panama Canal is already back to its normal. So we see the extra ton per mile on Panamaxes will come back to normal in future. So we are seeing basically the demand going forward is going to slow down.
In fact, sir, I was going to ask you.
Sorry.
I was going to ask you that apart from geopolitical factors, some say that demand is quite robust. So how do you explain that, considering that steel demand globally is very dull for many months now?
In fact, I beg to differ with that, because steel demand has been good, and China probably will export 100 million tons this year, barring any protectionism that comes into play. But let me go back to China, because China controls 50% of the global seaborne trade, and if China sneezes, everybody gets cold. Now, if you have heard the latest statement from Baowu chairman, that be prepared for the harsh winter, what he means is they're going to have a lot of trouble in the steel market. And basically, when he's talking about that, there are two things that may affect. The domestic steel consumption is already going down because of the Chinese economy. You have a problem in the property market. Then the consumption is not picking up. There is a deflationary environment in China. So all in all, China is not looking very good. And let's assume right now, till July, they have done pretty well. There was about On an annualized basis, there was about 1.2 billion tons of iron ore. China is producing record domestic production of coal. We are touching near 5 billion tons. And so let me get back to this. So assuming we are in August, right? From August last year to now, there is a 5% deficiency in the growth of steel in China. I'm talking about domestic consumption. So if that increased to 10% by the end of the year because of this remark from Baowu chairman, let's assume, for example, 10% is basically 100 million tons of steel, So if that comes out in the market, what we are talking about is 200 million tons of iron ore, So that means China will consume 200 million tons of less iron ore, But, so it's an academic exercise. I can't, because there is a virtually lack of stimulus in the Chinese economy right now. The government is not contributing to that. So in the absence of any stimulus, this market can continue till such time Chinese government does something about it. So let's assume if we take out 200 million tons of, that's a big amount. So we are already talking about a very low demand next year. I think from 2.7% this year, it might go down to 1.5. And if 200 million tons come out from the market, we are talking the supply will be more and demand will be less. So going forward, as I said, shipping is cyclical downtrend right now, and the market is in backwardation. So we probably think, in my opinion, the market will be very soft going in 2025 on the freight front.
Sir, what is the vessel availability scenario now, considering the tighter fuel emission norms in shipping?
I don't think it's a problem right now. We are talking about problem down the line for 2-3 years. So at the moment, the IMO is struggling to address that issue. So we don't have a concrete rules and regulations. They are meeting in September of 2024 to thresh out all these concerns from the owner. So we will be able to tell you more about this in October. But in any event, any changes or regulatory requirements will not come before 2025.
Right. And what is the vessel turnaround time, the bottlenecking scenario that we had encountered a couple of years back? How has that been resolved?
Gradually the congestion is coming under control. As I said, the other major problem in shipping has been, of course, the geopolitical events and, the draft in Panama, which really hit big time on the Panamax side. They're all coming back to normal, So as a result, we see a steady flow of barring Red Sea. So if that comes back to normal, let's say in 6 months, I think the supply side will probably be more than the demand side, And that's why we expect a weak 2025.
So that will push down freights?
That will push down the freights.
But which commodities will drive?
See, I see the Panamax market might perform well because we see a big wheat exports coming out of, grain exports coming out of US. And probably we see a lot more interesting US West Coast, China grain trade. Because of the people are a bit skeptical after the Panama drought, so they'll try and circumvent that, and there could be a more grain trade movement next year from Northwest Pacific into China. And of course, there's a record. The food prices are coming off, so I see a lot more U.S. grain going into the Chinese market, whether it's from U.S. West Coast or from the Panama Canal, or its usual long haul from via Cape of Good Hope.
So you're saying that freights would be soft looking at the rest of 2024 and 25 as well. So to what extent could we see freights going down?
Look, putting number is very difficult, but as I said, the demand side is shrinking, and with See, the biggest challenge right now I see is Chinese are very scared of the U.S. presidential election. They're worried about the tariffs. And I read somewhere that once Trump comes back in the power, they will impose tariffs and a ban on Chinese-built ships, So Chinese-built ships, 80% of the world fleet is probably built in China. If that comes true, obviously, the freight rates might skyrocket, in that case. So it's very difficult to say. Yeah. So, barring any geopolitical event, I think the market will come back to normal, and probably, as I said, backwardation where demand is probably less than the supply.
Thank you so much. A few lines on Big Mint.
No, Big Mint, congratulations to Dhruv and Big Mint to you, and a very well hosted event. And we were really happy with the arrangement and look forward to the next one.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Bhargava.